You will notice that this video is a little different than the videos that I'm used to make. This one is a rebuttal on a video that I found that says 22 reasons to stop believing in God. Now, I want to make it clear that my intentions here is not to bash this person. Guess what? I used to think just like him. And it doesn't matter, even if he never becomes a believer like myself, I still have no reason to judge him. Actually, I don't have any rights to judge him. However, I thought this was a nice opportunity to share with you 22 reasons of why we should still believe.
If God knows everything we're going to do in the future, then we don't have free will. But we do.
Well, I agree with him. We do have free will. However, it doesn't mean because we have free will that God should know. The fact that he knows, it doesn't mean that he controls the future. He does know, and he does give us free will. He's not attached to time. He knows the future, and he still gives us free will.
If God doesn't know everything we're going to do in the future, then he's not really omniscient.
He does know the future, and I do believe he is omniscient.
God couldn't stop a murder when there were only 4 people on Earth.
He couldn't stop, or he chose not to stop. We have to remember that he gave us the free will. If he would choose to just give the free will to those that he knew was going to make the right choices, then that would not be free will. He could stop, but he chose to not interfere.
Supposed to be God's special creatures, then the universe is full of a lot of wasted space.
I don't understand the logic in the fact that there's a lot of wasted space and saying that we shouldn't believe in God because of that. Our understanding of science is so limited. We don't know why we need all of this space. We don't know if there is actually life in other planets. We don't know. There's so much that we just don't know. I don't understand how this logic tells us that we shouldn't believe in God.
Myth of a great flood and a virgin birth were around long before Jesus came around. Maybe those are just elements of an interesting story.
Well, that's the question. What came first, the chicken or the egg? It depends on what you believe. If you're a creationist, you're going to believe that the chicken came first, right? So I do believe that even though there's a lot of these stories, actually, when we see literature, a lot of people believe that some literature sounds like the Noah's Ark. So they believe that the Bible is imitating what the literature was saying. Well, it depends on what you believe. I believe that that story, those prophecies came first. And then all of this was twisted into other ideas that made us today, that is really hard for us to understand without really having records of when did it actually start. Some people choose to believe in the science side where it says that this came first or this came first. Well, I do believe there was a lot of myths out there about the Virgin Mary, about the flood. But which one came first? Did God give first and then the people imitated, or was the opposite?
Virgins can't get pregnant. Not without modern medicine anyway. Michelle.
That's true. Virgins cannot get pregnant. Well, there's science, but on the other side, there's something called miracles. Because if our women could get pregnant without having sex, then it wouldn't be a miracle. It wouldn't be what it was.
Michelle Bachmann and Sarah Palin, Christian. Barney Frank, not a Christian.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't follow a lot of people. As you can see, my accent, I wasn't raised in the United States, even though I live here for almost 27 years. I don't know exactly why he's mentioning these names. Is it because the 2 first women, they say to be Christians, but don't have a very Christian-like behavior, and the other man that probably was not a Christian has a good, better behavior? Well, I don't know exactly what is his point, but my point is they're all humans, and even those that carry the flag of being a Christian, it doesn't mean that they really are, and they are really like Christ-like. Because of Christians' behaviors, they're still human. They're not God. They're not proving that God doesn't exist.
God seems to agree with you about everything. Isn't that a coincidence? And isn't it also a coincidence that God seems to agree with all those Christians who also disagree with you?
I agree with him. I don't like the way that a lot of Christian takes like prayer and things like that. It's almost like God is like that genie in the bottle where you scratch and he's going to give you whatever you want. I don't agree with this logic. I don't agree with this process. It still doesn't tell me that God doesn't exist.
If you ever wrote a book with that many contradictions in it, your publishers would have to pull it from the shelves.
Well, that one is a big one that I have to disagree with him. Actually, before becoming a Christian, before believing that God existed in the Bible and all of that, I had my thoughts exactly the same, that it was written by man, that it was just fiction and poetry, and it was full of contradiction, these crazy traditions that only very naive and ignorant people could believe. Until, it's a long story, I'm not going to share here now, but when I actually started studying the Bible, really studying the Bible for myself, I realized that a lot of the contradiction was just people that didn't quite understand the Bible. Unfortunately, most people that go to church, they have a very superficial level understanding of the Bible. And with that, they make up their own crazy ideas that unfortunately people feel like is contradictions. But I'm going to tell you, every single contradiction that I have found in the Bible that it looks like a contradiction, I was the one who didn't really get it. Once I study a little more, I was like, this actually makes sense.
God made us in his image. Why do we have vestigial body parts and organs that often fail?
I know that's a hard one, but again, consequence of sin. Unfortunately, unless you have a completely understand the Bible and the history that it came, you wouldn't understand that God never planned for this to be the way that it is. Unfortunately, because of our disobedience, there's so much consequence of sins, including disease and body parts and things that doesn't function the way that it's supposed to. But God, again, chooses not to intervene, not with the big scheme of things. I know that individually he has intervened many times, but because there's a cycle that has to complete before the whole thing will end.
99.9% of all the species God ever supposedly created are extinct. How many do-overs does God need? God,
unfortunately, it's kind of the same answer as the first one, as the previous one. God doesn't need do-overs. This extinction of animals is also a consequence of sin.
God doesn't exist because I said so. What? You don't like that reason? Because that's the same reason a lot of parents and pastors give to children to convince them God does exist.
Yep, I have to agree with him. I never accepted these answers before, and I will continue not accepting these answers. I don't think we should go with just because I said so. Interesting, because generations are different, and I would say that the older generations, there was a culture that would accept things just because somebody said so. This generation doesn't accept that, and I don't accept that. So I'm with him. Just because somebody said so, we shouldn't go there.
The Holocaust.
Again, because of people's bad behavior, horrible behavior, doesn't prove that God doesn't exist.
The proof people give for why God exists is so often based on their personal experiences. God spoke to them. They feel God. They just know God exists. It's the sort of proof we would never take seriously if it were applied anywhere else.
That's true. I agree with that one. We wouldn't accept just because of feelings, but sometimes there are real feelings and real experience. But I do know there's a lot of like crazy stuff and people just use in their favor because I felt that way. Like, oh, God sent me a message and you should be my wife. Like those kind of crazy things. Yeah, I agree. I don't like that. On the other hand, there have some real experiences. Now, we cannot say when he says that we would never accept that in science. We have a lot. If you actually study a lot of the ideas, a lot of what we teach as being facts in the evolution theory and survival of the fittest. And when you start studying details of that, there is a lot there that they never prove it. It just makes sense in their mind, but there was no proof for it.
Many of God's followers, using Bible verses to support their beliefs, have made life worse for other people. No matter
that one, hands down, you're 100% correct. Nothing else. I have nothing else to say.
No matter what Ray Comfort says, God didn't create bananas to look like this. They evolved this way without God's help. Every time
Okay, my question is, did you see the banana evolving that way? It actually takes a lot of faith to believe that.
Time science and religion go head to head, science wins. You don't
I am so sorry, but that's not true. I was actually that's what ended up bringing me to the Bible. To actually believe that God existed was exactly because of that. Because no, it's not everywhere that science and Bible can go together, but I saw many places. And for this, I wouldn't be able to share everything here, but I am making videos and I'll be sharing in my channel. And there is many, many, many times that the science has proved that the Bible is correct. And there's places where things that it's said in the Bible, like the wind has weight and that the earth is rounded and that the earth is hanging on nothing, hundreds of years before science discovered. And actually we have now historical and archaeological findings that prove Bible is correct.
need God to be a good person. Just cut out the middleman. People
That's true. Maybe you don't need God to be a good person. In my view, now that I'm a believer, I believe that it is God. Even the people that know nothing about God, don't care about God, I think that it is still God that instill in us goodness, because goodness only comes from Him. But in the sense of, I know a lot of non-religious people, non-believers that are very good people. Now, I don't think we should cut out the middleman.
have been saying Jesus is coming back during their lifetime for many, many, many lifetimes. He's not coming back. It's time to move on.
Okay. The first time that Jesus came as a baby, the prophecy said that He was going to come for, if we believe in a Bible timeline, for more than 4,000 years. It took a long time, but one day He did come. The fact that He's taken a long time, it doesn't mean that He's not going to come.
God works in mysterious ways is typically a euphemism for stop asking hard questions.
Oh, I don't like that one either. Actually, it's because I kept asking the hard questions that today I'm a believer. It just worked the opposite.
Between tornadoes in Oklahoma, droughts in Texas, and hurricanes in Alabama, there sure are a lot of natural disasters in the places that God supposedly loves.
I know it's hard for non-believers to understand that, and especially because I'm going to give the same answer as I gave in two other answers before. Consequence of sin. Unfortunately, it seems like it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And it's part of prophecy. Prophecy said that by the end of times and close to the return of Jesus, we would have a lot more natural disasters. We always had, it would just increase.
You were made in God's image. Except for your foreskin, apparently. You need to cut that off.
Okay, no, I do believe we were made in the image of God, and moreover in the sense of His character, because I don't think God, except that Jesus became flesh like us, but his being, I don't think is really exactly like this. However, I don't know. These are mysteries that truly I don't know. And when I don't know, I don't try to make up ideas, because that's what makes people disbelieve. Now, as far as the foreskin, I never got that. Why did God ask for the Jewish people to do that? I really don't understand. Again, I'm not going to go into something that I don't understand. I know it was related to the sacrificial ritual and a way of humble themselves and knowing that God is above them, and what a greater sacrifice than something like that it's really tough one. But still, because we were made in His image and connecting to the foreskin, I don't see the connection where that tells me that God does not exist. So this is the video that I wanted to share with you today. If you have more reasons to still believe that we have not mentioned here, put in a comment below. I would love to chat with you.